Well, what's the next event?
The next event takes us back many centuries in time. All of us have seen many of the famous temples in Mahabalipuram, Tanjore, etc. Not many of us have spent time to admire the stone sculptures and appreciate this wonderful art.
Today's talk is an effort to bring out the life stories depicted in these stone sculptures. Poetry in stone is an effort to bring out the stories of the Naimas via hymns that have been sculpted into stone and cast in bronze, not as verses but as storytelling panels, mainly from Darasuram and Tanjore Periyapuranam. The presentation will also be brought to life by the singing by Thiru, Siva, Thevara, Isai, Sundaramoorthy Othuvaar from Veeramakaliamman temple.
Before we proceed, a few words about the speaker, Mr. Vijay Kumar. Mr. Vijay is a sculpture enthusiast and avid blogger. He runs www.poetryinstone.in, a blog dedicated to showcasing the beauty of temple sculpture in English and Tamil. He was recently invited to present a paper at the Semmori Maanadu on Tamilar Sirpakkalai, Minpadivum Vizhipunarvum. He is also part of many temple renovation and restoration efforts in India.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for a generous introduction, kids. It's a great pleasure and thank Brahma Sabha for giving us an opportunity to sit down and see some beautiful sculptures with you today evening. I'm also honored to have on stage with me distinguished guests. During the course of this talk, you will know who they are. Today, what we are going to see is the life stories of few saints and how they are sculpted in stone. Before we proceed, I'd like to show you the current state of our religion, the base of our religion. HRNC stats say that there are 35,000 temples in South India, especially Tamil Nadu, of which not even 5% have incomes of more than 10,000. These centers of religious thought are in a very pathetic state. I'll show you one such. This is a temple in Uttarameru, Kailasanatha temple. This has been taken up for renovation recently. It's important for you to look at this because in a couple of slides, right here, we found something. What did we find? We go out and see it. We go to the next slide. You know, recently the news was of a Gopuram falling down. But this is the Kailasanatha sculpture, the linga, inside the Vimanam that you saw in the previous slide. There was not a scratch on the main linga. The Vimana is constructed of brick. It's a Pallava age temple. It's a 830 AD inscription is there. But it's so constructed that even though it's in such pathetic state, nothing happened to the main shrine. We go on. We see the Sudaivaravams, the stucco works in the Vimanam. A lot of trees growing on, but there is hope. Can we go to the next one? Yes. This is what it looks after the renovation effort is being done, and this is where people like you can contribute and help restore them to their past glory. In the previous slide, we saw, I told you we found something. What did we find? We go to the next slide. Now this is how the renovation looks, and when we were excavating this part, we found a relief sculpture. What was it? We go to the next slide. Yeah, the mover. I'm sure audiences here would know who the mover are, but for the benefit of the kids and as an introduction to this talk, I'm going to talk about them. During the dark period of Tamils, that's called the Kalapirar Kalam, 2nd to 5th century, nothing was known of them. Our religion was not as great as it was today. But for these three who came and virtually sung in choice Tamil the divine verses and brought Shaivism back to its former glory. What we are going to see today is part of those verses.
Yeah, like that. Back.
Go to the next slide. The lost Tirumurais. What is this? Today we stand. 1,000 years have passed since Rajaraja built the big temple. The greatest contribution of Chola is not just in temple architecture or not in some overseas conquest. Greatest contribution was to religion. He called himself Siva Sekaran for finding the lost Tirumurais. How did he find it? He chanced on a small boy singing the verses. And he asked him, such divine Tamil, where is this from? He said, I learned it by heart. Are there more? He said, yes, there are, but I don't know where they are. So the king did not relent. He with Nambiyandar Nambi went into the locked rooms of Chidambaram and found the Tirumurai. That apart, a couple of centuries later, again, Shaivism was going through a bad phase. Kulothunga was drawn into another religion. That time, Trekiyar took up upon himself to list down the life stories of the 63 Nayammars. And today, you're going to see a couple of both. To its name today, Kalai Kadambam, you're going to see a confluence of sculpture, bronzes, paintings to the accompaniment of a living tradition that Rajaraja created. To ensure that the verses were not lost, again, he created a singing tradition. He created a tradition of Othuvaars who would sing in the same pun, the Tamil verses. And today we have amongst our midst a person who's been trained in the same canons. We go back into the presentation now.